Greetings, warriors, shield maidens, and all of you who identify as the left testicle of a transgendered hippopotamus. Something going around the news today, in fact, past couple days, about these, you could call them MAGA bombs, I guess. Just want to talk to you about that before it gets too crazy in the media and before y'all go to the voting booth. I'm not going to get into so much why I think this is going on, but I do want to talk about some facts of the situation. First of all, let me say that violence against a political opponent is never a good thing and should be condemned forever and anytime it happens. Secondly, I want to say that we have laws, and there's a reason we have laws, and we've always been a nation of laws, which is why I'm so against illegal immigration. It's because it's illegal. If the first act you're committing in coming to this country is breaking a law, you're not exactly the type of person who's going to assimilate and we need in this country. So that being said, let's look at some facts. One, I don't know about the rest of you, but I heard that the first round of these care packages arrived on the same day to all of the other addresses. May be true or not, but that's what I heard. If I'm mistaken, clarify it in the comments and state your source. But I don't know about you, but I've mailed 2 packages from the exact same post office with the exact same clerk at the exact same time, going to the exact same address. Both weighed the same, both were the same box, the same size. Both of the boxes came from the USPS. Both cost exactly the same down to the penny. And one arrived 4 days later than the other. And both were priority mail. So to coordinate all of these boxes, all of these care packages showing up at their intended destination at the same time on the same day, that would be a trick in itself. Now we're hearing that some have come by courier. We're hearing some came from hand delivery, some came USPS. Here's a big question I have. The top 4. Well, we'll go to the top 5. From George Soros, Hillary Clinton, Barack Hussein Obama, Kamala Harris, and CNN Time Warner. You're telling me that none of those, you can just walk up to the door, knock on the door, hand somebody a package, and say, here. No signature is required. Somebody's going to take that package inside the compound, and there's no video cameras, no recordings whatsoever, no security. Just any random person carrying a box can walk up to the door, knock on the door, hand whoever answers the door a package and say, this is for Mr. Soros or Mrs. Clinton or still Mrs. Clinton, but Mrs. Clinton's wife, Bill Clinton. Or you could say, this is for Obama, or this is for Kamala Harris, or this is for that reporter that doesn't even work for CNN, and they misspelled his name, which is another story. You're saying that anybody can do this at any random time, and there's no video recording, there's no registry, there's no questions asked, nothing, until they open these packages and find their bomb in there. So the aide opens the package, somebody walks up to George Soros's property, goes through the gate, goes through all of the armed checkpoints, gets to his door, knocks on his door, hands the box to an aide who opens the box, notices something doesn't look right about the box, closes the box back up, walks it outside, calls the authorities who come out and say, oh, it's a bomb. They put it on a truck, take it to a lab, and it still hasn't exploded. Yeah, that just doesn't quite make sense to me, why none of them exploded. So let's look at postage. Now, when you go into the post office and they put that little decal on there, in the ink on that little decal with that little funky hieroglyph they've got going on there, there is a wealth of information. Sometimes, if it's going to a public official, in fact, most times if it's going to a public official, such as an elected representative, a pop-up screen will show up, from what I understand. At least it used to, on the computer. And while that person is sitting there and you think they're just typing in the address and coming up with the rate of postage and everything else, they're typing in color, eyes, height, weight, ethnicity, hair color, and all that is imprinted in that little hieroglyph that everybody thinks is just a scan code for the delivery person or whatever transfer station is going to receive it down the line. So, one, how did everybody get it at the same time? Two, why did none of these explosive devices go off? Three, how in the hell does this person think they're not going to get caught? Four, there's no security cameras anywhere to track anybody. There's no signature anywhere to track anybody. Some of the packages had massive amounts, just way too much postage, which wasn't canceled out by the USPS anyway, but still delivered by the USPS, apparently, reportedly. Some were hand-delivered and still had USPS stamps on them. Some of them had nowhere near the amount of postage necessary to get it from its point of origin to the destination, but were still delivered. You see how a lot of this isn't making sense? Now here's the thing, if this was actually a Republican conservative, we're not the violent ones. We're not the ones calling for people to gather outside of the residence of those we politically oppose and keep them awake all night. We're not the ones calling for the rape of their children. We're not the ones cutting off their heads figuratively and holding them up. We're not the ones asking when was the last time an actor killed a president. We aren't the ones declaring that we dream about blowing up the White House. We're not the side that shows up without a permit at a peaceful rally and starts beating people with clubs and rocks and bricks and stabbing people with knives. We're not the ones that go hunting congressmen and senators at a baseball game and shooting them. That's not our side. Our side holds on truth. Our side holds on the Constitution and the rule of law. Now, granted, if things ever got to the point where we ended up with a dictator who was actually going to take the physical Constitution and run it through a paper shredder, I would hope that the patriots would rise up and say, no, we're a rule of law, or a country of law. We are a country of civility. And that Constitution gives us, or recognizes every right that God gave us. Whatever God you want, whatever creator you have. And it's your choice in this country because of that document. So this isn't a Republican, and it's not a conservative, and it's not some amateur. Amateurs who deal with black powder and explosives and devices such as this end up either blowing themselves up, or they end up having an explosion somewhere that somebody will report to the authorities, because they shake a lot of shit when they go off. Nobody has that report against them lately. Nobody's reported a strange boom-boom sound in the distance. Nobody's reported a strange boom-boom sound in their apartment complex or their neighborhood. And nobody's been blown up. This isn't the work of an amateur. This is a professional who's trying to look like an amateur. Which is why there's huge print on all the mailing labels. Huge print saying, "Look at me, look at me, look at me." There's intentional misspellings, almost as if the person was trying to type some of the names phonetically rather than actually. The bombs were made in such a way that they are dangerous, but would not detonate easily unless there was an outside source to detonate them. This is the work of somebody trying to make a statement just before the midterms. And I don't think it's a conservative, and I don't think it's a Republican, because what would they gain? Period. End of discussion. And that, because a lot of voting booths, a lot of elections started early this year. They're giving us, 11 extra days to vote for some reason. I guess that's because the Democrats think that it's going to take that long for the people of color and the minorities to figure out where their voting place is. Just like they figure that they can't be required to show identification because they can't figure out what DMV is to get a state ID. Anyway, that's another story. So I digress. This is somebody who's trying to make a scene, who's trying to bring attention to something, and it's a false flag. None of these explosives have gone off. None of them are going to, unless detonated at whatever facility they're carrying them off to. But you don't make that kind of statement as an amateur and not blow yourself up. This person, if you think about it, what would a Republican conservative have to gain? Early elections, the first day or two, everybody was on the left media, were ecstatic because the Democrats were showing an early lead. And once those early Democrats voted, the Republicans are gaining, and a lot of the Republicans are winning. And we've been winning for 2 years. So what is there to gain 2 weeks before the actual date of November 6th to vote for somebody to do something like this? The only benefit would be on the left. It's not going to help the Republican base. It's going to piss a lot of Republicans off. Republicans are going to want to hold that person who did this, regardless of who they are, accountable. But the only advantage would be for Democrats to be able to come up and start screaming, "Look how violent and how horrible these NRA people are. Look how horrible and violent the right is." They've tried everything else. They've tried their Nazi claims. They've tried their racist claims. They've tried their xenophobe claims. They've tried their transphobe claims. They've tried climate change claims, they've tried the Nazi thing, they've tried the murder thing, they've tried the end of the world thing, they've tried the Armageddon thing, they've tried the nuclear destruction thing, they've tried we're going to blow every country off the face of the earth with nuclear weapons thing, they've tried Trump's going to take us to war thing, they've tried Trump's a misogynist thing, they've tried oh, he's cheated on his wife. Well, no shit, he's always cheated on his wives. He admitted that in Playboy multiple times. He admitted that in People magazine multiple times, Time magazine a few times. I don't know how often he's got to say that he's not a faithful man, but he never claims to be a part of the Christian crowd, and he never claims to be a faithful man. And if his wives don't give a shit, as long as he's not raping these women, like Bill Clinton and Harvey Weinstein and underage kids like Roman Polanski and Harvey Weinstein and Bill Clinton that you all hold up to be such dear and wonderful people on the left. Who cares? That's their marriage. That's their relationship, not yours, and it has nothing to do with whether or not he's going to run the country okay. It's a private matter between him and his wife and his family. So, I don't know, I just don't see this being anything other than a false flag. I see this as being something coming from the left, trying to make another doomsday prediction or trying to gain points somewhere, and unfortunately, the simple-minded will believe it. Those people who are unable to use reason and logic and think things through and connect the dots in a coloring book that are this far apart, they'll believe it. And all of those on this new meme, which I absolutely love this new NPC meme, because you see it so often all over. As soon as somebody on the left brings up healthcare or NRA or gun control or healthcare or socialism, I mean, it's all the exact same words, and you see it throughout the media as well. It's like, yeah, you're being controlled by one person, and you're stupid enough to be a useful idiot and just repeat what they tell you to think, repeat and think what they tell you to think, because you're not smart enough to accept reality, and you're too jealous of everybody else because they worked really hard to get where they are. Anyway, that's another story too. So I digress. This bomb thing, I don't care who it is, it's wrong. You don't threaten, you don't send packages that could cause damage or danger to anyone else. You certainly don't threaten somebody's life, and you certainly don't attack anyone because their political views or religious views are different than you. And this person, whoever it is, and I don't care who it is, this person or people, and I know there was a parody of an ISIS flag thrown in a couple of the boxes. That's what I heard today. It's not ISIS. Come on, people, they're pretty much done. But whoever it is needs to be stopped. Whoever it is needs to never be out in society again. And anybody who helped, aided, and abetted them needs to never be out in society again. And I don't care who they are. But what I'm afraid of is some poor son of a bitch who got accused of a crime, and the judge wouldn't allow him to enter evidence or her to enter evidence that would absolutely clear their name. So they took a plea deal, ended up a felon. Of course, after that, no matter what anybody says, if there's ever an altercation or a question, now that you've got that felony behind you, you are now automatically the aggressor, the predator, and the one who's dangerous, and the other one is automatically innocent. And this has been going on long before the Me Too movement. So this has been going on since the 80s. Anyway. All I'm saying is they're going to find some poor bastard like that and pin it on that person. And that's what I'm afraid of. Only because I saw what happened in the Kavanaugh deal, where the left is so for guilty until you prove yourself innocent, which is not what this country stands for, and that's not our laws, and that's not our justice system. But there's very little justice in our justice system anymore, if any at all, unless you've got enough money to actually work the system. And that's a whole other story. So I digress. This isn't an amateur. This isn't somebody who doesn't know what they're doing. And there is a reason behind it that I'm not sure about. But I'm sure as more evidence comes forward and more statements are made, we'll find out. Anyway, have a good day, everybody. Thanks for listening. Talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.